Back in 1858, John Hanning Speke and Richard Francis Burton, no relation to the famous actor, set out on an expedition across Africa to find the source of the Nile. They discovered Lake Tanganyika at the headwaters of the Blue Nile, but Burton became ill and Speke went on without him to find the source of the White Nile, the true source, and named it Lake Victoria. However, an argument ensued between the two men and their supporters over the next decade or so as to which lake was the true source. Then, in the early 1870s, Henry M. Stanley and David Livingston embarked on an expedition of their own to finally put the question to rest, and found that Speke had been correct and Lake Victoria was the true source of the Nile. On September 18, 2020, Denise and I, along with our miniature Schnauzer puppy Molly, took a trek that mirrored the ones taken by those famous explorers of the 1800s. We traveled to seek the source of the Youghiogheny River, which flows through our hometown, McKeesport, Pennsylvania. We had one advantage, though, over Speke and Burton and the other guys: Google Maps, and the fact that the source was already known. However, we had never been there. We grew up familiar with the sights of the Yough flowing into the Monongahela River at McKeesport, the Jerome and the mainline railroad bridges sitting side by side near the mouth of the Yough, crossing the 15th Street Bridge to Port View and Liberty Borough, both the old and new iterations of that bridge, and then the first bridge I knew as a child, the Boston Bridge, which we crossed to visit relatives in Little Boston, Pennsylvania. In fact, I believe that for most of my life, the farthest I had ever traveled up the Yough was to the dam at Yough Lake, and I guess I've always assumed that this lake was the source of the river. But I was wrong. The Youghiogheny begins as a couple springs on the side of Backbone Mountain in Maryland. This mountain is the Eastern Continental Divide in this region. The Potomac has its source on the other side of the ridge. The Yough Springs flow down the mountain as a small stream into the tiny Silver Lake in West Virginia, and then after a few miles it flows north into Maryland again, picking up tributaries and flow until it reaches the Yough River Lake and runs into Pennsylvania. After about a 2.5-hour trip from our home, we arrived at Silver Lake, West Virginia, and turned onto Backbone Ridge Road and began our drive up to find the springs, or so we thought. This map shows the approximate location of the springs and the areas from which we shot some video. I'll let the videos explain why we never quite made it to search for the springs. Okay, if you see this little creek here behind me, this is the Youghiogheny River. We are up near the headwaters of the Youghiogheny. As you can see, this little reel here leaves a lot to be desired when compared to Ohio Falls. And then it goes in under the mountain laurel and zigzags down the rest of this hill. And it slowly becomes the Yough that we know in McKeesport. Okay. This little stream of water that you see right here, down over the hill here, is the Youghiogheny River. We are near the headwater of the Youghiogheny River, which empties out from a spring back up in the hills here, but we can't go any further because there's a private community up here. So this is kind of neat. I could probably straddle the Youghiogheny River right here. So just to give you a little taste of the area here, that's where we're parked up there, right where the private road begins and where they tell you to stop. And then down over in this ravine is the Yough River, which is kind of difficult to see through the brush here. I can hear the water running. There it is. It's amazing. Again, here's another vantage point of the Yough, the headwaters of the Yough. Like I said, I could straddle it right here. Nice little wooded glade. The small creek you saw in the videos flows into a dammed area to form Silver Lake, a private campground and recreation area. From there, the very small river begins its journey northward through West Virginia, Maryland, and eventually Pennsylvania. This video from YouTube shows the river as nothing more than a small drainage ditch somewhere a few miles below Silver Lake. But as it flows onward and picks up water from other small creeks, the river slowly grows into a respectable trout stream and finally the big water river that is both a natural, recreational, and cultural asset for the tri-state area. I've provided some shots from Google Maps Street View to show the gradual growth of the river's flow until it reaches the Yough Dam. About 10 miles below the dam, the river reaches Youghiogheny State Park in Pennsylvania. At the falls at Youghiogheny begins the famous run of rapids, which makes the Youghiogheny one of the premier whitewater rivers in the eastern United States. Finally, upon reaching McKeesport, the river rolls past the fairly new McKees Point Marina and finally empties into the Monongahela River on its way to join the Allegheny to form the Ohio River, which leads to the Mississippi and eventually the Gulf of Mexico. We hope you enjoyed our little expedition to find the source of the Youghiogheny River. See you next time on Off We Go, and thanks for watching. Oh, yes. There's another view of the Yough that I forgot to show. The Youghiogheny provides the municipal water for our area, so we literally have the Yough River running out of our taps.